replaces cryptic codes
away,
with natural language commands. The net result is an up to 80% reduction in the number of keystrokes required to use the system. United is also using the Microsoft Windows environment so that reservations agents can now look at several aspects of a client's record at the same time, saving time and allowing for better service. Another benefit of the distributed architecture is locally controlled utilities such as calendar, calculator, online Rolodex, and even a word processor. Despite the use of PS2 personal computers on the United reservation system, United will not be making Focal Point available to PC users via an online service.
If you saw the movie War Games and saw a kid sitting on a PC at home and booking a round-the-world trip with no risk transference, he didn't buy anything, he just booked it. He's tying up live inventory. And from our perspective, from the airline perspective, that inventory is sacrosanct. Once you sell it, you can't get it back. And unless somebody physically gives you a credit card number or pays you for it, you have nothing.
United's decision to buy 40,000 IBM Model 50s is a major commitment to the Personal System 2 and the IBM standard. But Barry Kotar says the machines justify their confidence.
To say that we're very impressed would be an understatement. Its communications connectivity, its networking capabilities are unsurpassed. Long-term, the overall costs of maintenance and ongoing support of those devices, we believe, will more than pay for themselves. So we believe that IBM has developed a machine that will set the standard for the next 5 years that the others will have to play against.
With us in the studio now is Jan Lewis, president of the Palo Alto Research Group and publisher of Jan Lewis's Computer Insider. And next to Jan, George Morrow, computer pundit at right now chief scientist for Nestar.
Jan, in introducing this new machine line, IBM has really introduced a whole sales and service policy. The dealers themselves have to have training for the end user, the customer. What does this mean in terms of the new presentation of materials to consumers themselves?
Well, for the consumers, they're going to be getting a higher level of support from the dealers than they were on the first generation of PCs. What IBM really is doing is taking the kind of support they have provided to the mainframe users for many years and moving that level of support through the third parties, meaning the dealers, the borrowers, the retailers, to the end user.
So it really won't be up to the end user to install boards and try and figure out, go through manuals and determine for themselves how to run these machines then.
They will not have to do it, and if they did do it, it would be easier.
Yeah.
Well, and I think John Dvorak showed us how IBM's managed to make that an awful lot more practical than they did in the mainframe days. They can afford it now. They can give a level of service virtually impossible before.
George, what is your feeling about the clone issue?
Well, I have to disagree with the fellows about clones. I think there are going to be a lot of clones. And the main reason they're going to be clones isn't so much in processing power. Anybody can buy processing power now. You can get an Amiga with nice processing power. But it's the I.O. bus that IBM has brought to the game now. And a very much more enhanced bus than it used to be. It'll go to 32 bits. And while the rest of the clone makers have been struggling and agonizing over how to move to 32 bits, IBM now has done it. And I think the other people that make machines in the desktop area are going to have to follow that lead.
Jan, what about operating system 2, multitasking and so on? For instance, we hear Apple right now is working on its multitasking software for the new Macs and so on. What's going to happen there? Is Apple going to beat IBM to the punch, you think, with this?
Well, I'm not sure that it matters whether somebody beats someone else by 6 months or not, because it's going to take many years for the software really to develop. And it's been many years that we've been promised multitasking operating systems. When it does happen, and when we do have that couple of years of development, I think the user is never going to want to go backwards. Never going to want to go back to the original kind of operating environment that they have had.
The amazing thing to me on the operating systems is that for now, going on 3 years, there's a huge gap between the addressability of these machines, at least on the IBM side, and what the operating systems can handle. And somebody has dropped the ball marketing and not coming in and filling the gap between that, the ability of the processor and the ability of the operating system.
Well, you know, we've had a lot of experience with multitasking operating systems in the past, and once people have changed over and used those kinds of operating environments, it's virtually impossible to go back to single-threaded systems.
That's true. You have to be very careful about the way you move them forward. But I think that what's happening in this marketplace is something that none of us expected a few years ago. You know, I was the first guy who said it was crazy to have a soft drink salesman running a computer company. But it turned out that marketing is a very important issue in this marketplace, and it's going to become more important. And I think if there's a deficiency in the marketing of the operating systems, or the problems of the operating system, is marketing and not technology.
Jen, George, thank you very much. That's it for our look at the new IBM Personal System 2 computers. Stay tuned. We'll have this week's computer news in just a minute.
In the random access file this week, Lotus says it's finally dropping copy protection on 123 after years of complaints from users. The new release 3.0 will be copyable. The clone makers may finally be ready to close in on the Personal System 2 computers. Phoenix Technologies, makers of PC-compatible ROM BIOS software, has released 8 new products, including several that work with the Intel 8386 chip. Hewlett-Packard has announced 5 new PC-compatible products, including HP's first 386 product, the Vectra RS PC. HP also introduced a new entry-level Vectra called the CS PC. It's priced at only $11.95. Apple says it's working on the company's first laptop computer. No definite plans for a product release yet, but company spokesmen say Apple has built about a dozen prototypes. San Francisco was the site of this year's annual Apple Fest. Steve Wozniak was the keynote speaker. Several new products were unveiled, including Broderbund's new Jam Session software for the Macintosh. There were several low-end desktop publishing packages for the Apple II, and Applied Engineering finally showed off its PC Transporter package that lets you run IBM software on an Apple II. A Chicago teenager did a bit too much bragging on a bulletin board, and the hacker, known as Shadowhawk, found the FBI at his door. Shadowhawk had managed to break into AT&T's big computers at Bell Labs in New Jersey and allegedly downloaded about $1 million worth of software. FBI agents confiscated the hacker's equipment, including 2 Atari computers and, ironically, one AT&T 7300. Well, you've heard of Logo and you've heard of Lego. Now you can buy Logo Lego, a new computer-based building block system from the Lego company. A computer operates devices built with Lego blocks. The Lego TC toys will be available this Christmas. The peripheral bargain of the week is PerfoRip, a new $10 device from the American Mold Company of Florida. It automatically yanks those annoying perforated edges off your computer printouts. It also doubles as a ruler. At Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, they have trouble getting the computer nerds to show an interest in the school's athletic program. So this past weekend was Disc Day at the CMU Case Western football game. The first 300 students to show up at the game got free Macintosh diskettes. Finally, a New Yorker is using a Macintosh paint program to create new designs for his business, tattooing. He calls his software Fleshtop Publishing. That's it for this week's Chronicles. We'll see you next time.
The Computer Chronicles is made possible by Leading Edge, makers of IBM-compatible computer systems, including word processing with spelling correction, communication software, and Hayes-compatible 1200 and 2400 baud modems. Leading Edge, with over 1,000 service centers nationwide. Leading Edge, leading the way to the information age. Additional funding is provided by McGraw-Hill, publishers of Byte. Byte's detailed technical articles cover the latest in microcomputer technology throughout the world. Byte, the international standard.